ready to start? Is everybody ready to start? You guys ready? We'll call this meeting to order of the City Council. It is June 1st. If Mr. Perks, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, please?
I will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We need to start with a roll call. Ms. Harris, will you help us with that?
Yes. Council member Lynch, she's not present, but we do have a quorum.
Okay, and I'm told he ought to be coming along here shortly, so we'll excuse him and let him walk in when he gets here. We have an agenda before us. There he is right here. Welcome, Mr. Lynch. We started without you, but we didn't get too far.
Sorry about that.
You're okay. Yeah. Well, on that note, we have an agenda before us. Is there any changes to that agenda?
I'll make the motion we accept the agenda as it is.
Mr. Welling with a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Mr. Otley seconding. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved. We have an agenda. We've got the next City Council minutes for May 18th, which, as you'll remember,
Mount St. Helens.
exactly. Thank you, Mr. Welling. Any changes to those minutes for discussion or concerns? If not, we'll acknowledge those as they've been prepared and go to the work session of May 25th. Any changes there? If not, we'll acknowledge those as well, and we'll go on to the bills. We've got a warrant register on your screens with today's date on it. Questions, comments, concerns? Is there a motion to approve the bills? Mr. Welling with a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sellers with a second. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That takes care of that. Council comments. Mr. Lynch, what do you have for us tonight?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Mr. Otley?
Nothing, Your Honor.
I have nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Moving pretty fast. Mr. Welling?
Just Scott Cemetery looked exceptional as usual for Memorial Day, and the flag was flying and it looked perfect. So thank you for taking care of that. Tell your guys that it looked wonderful.
Mr. Sellers?
Just a quick shout out. I've noticed several, I want to say young people, but they're older than most of us that have been, as they walk around, they're picking up the neighborhoods and stuff and picking up garbage and cleaning up, and I'm really grateful for that. And I don't have all their names, so I'm not going to try to slaughter that, but it's appreciated, and if you see them, thank them.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Welling? Well, I don't think I have anything to add either, other than I hope everyone had a good Memorial Day holiday and appreciate what that holiday means and why we have it. Oftentimes that gets sometimes forgotten. But, it shouldn't be. But with that, we'll move on to our public hearings and special orders. And our first item there is a motion to release retainage to Northridge for the Evanston Railroads. That's on my agenda. Are we doing that now?
Yeah, let's do it now, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything we need to know about that before we move on? I think we've discussed it a little bit in some work sessions.
See a little closer. This was retainage from, I think, 2017, maybe 2018. That was withheld. We had a claim when we
Right.
when we put it in the paper for the 41-day advertisement, they had one of their subs, one of their masons, that filed a claim on the project, and so that's been tied up in court. But we've received some kind of notice, and we did release 5% of that, so we were withholding 5% instead of the whole 10%, so it's about $150,000. So we've been holding that this whole time, but we've been given notice that we can, from the courts, that we can release that now to Northridge.
All of the legal wranglings have been worked
As
their
far
way
as I know, and
through
as far
whatever.
as Mr. Bowles told me too, is
Where that sits, Your Honor, is they litigated this case in a district court down in Utah. That court rendered a decision, a mixed decision. Our contractor, Northridge, has appealed that decision. That appeal is pending. But in the meantime, I received a stipulation from both attorneys, the attorney for the contractor, for the Masons contractor, and the attorney for Northridge, and they've stipulated that we can go ahead and pay all the retainage to North Star. And they have other agreements between them that don't involve us. The amount of the retainage, Trudy showed me a number, and I want to say it was in excess of $150,000. So we will cut the check within due process, and we will send it off, and we will close out that project. And I think it's been 3 years. Has it been 3 or 4?
Yeah, I believe so. We have an approved pay application for that amount, signed by the contractor and the architect and everything. So it's just, we've just been holding that pay application. So
So we're ready to do
it's
this.
all finalized.
Get this done and
Yeah.
out of the way for as far as we're concerned. you know,
Yep.
so.
As far as the architects approved it and everything. So.
Any questions from the council before we move on? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this release of retainage.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Lynch,
I'll second it.
Mr. Welling seconding. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That's approved. Thank you, Mr. Berger. Our next item is a public hearing to receive some comments on the annexation of some property. I suspect you'll be our hearing officer, Mr. Bolt?
I will, Your Honor. I'll conduct the public hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public comments regarding the proposed annexation of real property as requested in the petition to annex submitted by Casey L. Hartzell and Jana L. Hartzell. Notice of this hearing has been published in the newspaper as required by statute. Also, notice of the hearing has been mailed to all affected property owners and to the public utilities. All those who wish to testify at this hearing need to approach the podium, state your name and address, and then provide whatever testimony you wish. We will first hear from the city engineer. He'll provide a brief explanation of the proposed annexation, and then we'll hear from anyone else who wishes to address the petition.
As you can see, the shaded out part there, the 0.38 acres is the parcel proposed to be annexed into the city. Access would be off the Greasewood Lane. Sewer and water would come off there, and the home would be in that larger area in the back. This is the Casey Hartzell. His mom subdivided this piece off for him, parcelized that off so to get utilities and access off that street and all the city services. They've proposed to annex that in. We've contacted the power company, the gas company, utility companies. We've received receipt back from the power company that they received our letter and our notice. The gas company sent us an email saying that they've already been talking to them about service. And as far as I understand, they may be pushing the construction off a little bit because of costs and material costs, but they still want to get it annexed in, and I get those utilities. Maybe those might be able to get in right now this summer. So, but we, worked with Public Works and everybody, and as far as we know, there aren't any issues with providing service to this area.
Okay.
Where it's contiguous to the city limits, it makes sense to annex that portion in where they're going to receive all the benefits of the city. So.
Okay.
The reason why the entire parcel isn't annexed in, they do want to be able to maintain some of that in the county with county zoning and things like that. So we try to limit the what's being annexed in, just to meet our setbacks and zoning requirements.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Barker? Thank you, Dean. Anyone else present who wishes to speak to this petition? Eric, are you here for this? Do you have anything you wanted the council to know? Eric, you need to introduce yourself, please.
Eric Wall, UN Engineering and Surveying, and I've been hired by the Hartzels to do this. We've minimized what they want to annex in for tax purposes and various things, but they would like to be on city services. And the parcel we're annexing is big enough to accommodate the residents that they want to put there with the setbacks in there. And the setbacks we've requested that would be zoned the same as what Grass Valley Addition is. So there won't be a different zone change in there. It'll be MRE in there. So we're abiding by those setbacks, which, you know, obviously makes sense. The whole purpose of this is to get city utilities. We eliminate one more septic tank and the associated issues with that. It makes sense to be annexed into the city. Any questions?
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Anyone else present who wishes to speak to the petition? Are there questions for anyone from the council regarding the proposed annexation?
I don't think I do.
There being none, this hearing is closed, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bull. Our next item here is a presentation, sponsor of the year award, Mr. Matthews. Welcome.
I brought some prettier faces with me.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
If you ladies want to stand up. With me, I got Aubrey Ritter. She's in the brown cowboy hat.
Welcome.
She's our queen.
Fantastic.
And Mackenzie Huntington, our princess. And I need to just take a second to thank these two ladies. They've been this past year exceptional role models for the community and for Cowboys, but they've been in schools all over the place, representing Evanston and Cowboys, and have done a great job. And we're sad to see them go on Saturday.
Oh.
They're going to hand over their crowns
No.
to the next ones.
Well, appreciate your service.
We are here to present the 2021 Sponsor of the Year Award, and we have chosen to give that to the city of Evanston.
Wow.
And it says Sponsor of the Year, but really it's Sponsor of the last 85 years. The whole time. And so we appreciate the support from the city. We can't do it. And when I say city, I think it'd be more appropriate the whole community.
I agree. I agree.
As we involve law enforcement, fire department, ambulance services, I mean, public works brings us garbage cans.
Sure.
So it's truly, we want to recognize the city of Evanston, but the whole community as well.
I agree. I think that's cool. I think, from my perspective, I think Cowboy Days has always been a community thing. Different organizers, different sponsors, different presidents, different groups, city event. So
Absolutely.
I agree completely.
So we'd like to do a picture if that's okay.
You bet. Or,
Better go down there.
Yeah, right.
are they taller than me? Is there maybe a box I can Back when I was younger, that would bother me. Where are you going?
Close.
He wants to be in the middle.
I'm going to stand up all the time.
Have a cowboy hat on.
He'd need a 10-gallon hat.
Be the Haas Cartwright.
That's nice. I like that.
This can go
over on that day.
Yeah.
Then Diane can knock it off.
Yeah, you can just send it to.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you for that, for the entire community. That's an honor for all of us. Okay. We will go on to our consent agenda portion. We've got four items there. It looks like connected by twos. Looks like we've got a limited malt beverage permit, parade route request, Cowboy Days, and then a same thing, and an open container street closure, both in a malt beverage permit by the Urban Renewal Agency. Do you want to talk about these separately or together? What's your pleasure?
Take them together?
Take them together?
Sure.
Okay, on any of these items, is there anyone here that would like to say anything in regard that we don't already know about these? I suspect these are typical events that have happened similarly in the past. Is there anything you'd have us know?
What night's your concert, Dustin?
Concert's Friday night,
Friday night?
September 3rd.
Okay. That's Ned Ledoux.
I read that.
His son.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
entertainment.
Any other questions before we move on?
Just one.
Go ahead, please.
If we approve this, are we going to be in the parade?
I think we can.
I think we ought to.
That's always
I think
the
we
highlight of my year serving the public. I love being in those parades.
I think we
Haven't
can.
seen one for a lot of years.
We'll have to, whatever we're going to do to fill out the application, but we'll
Absolutely.
get us plugged in there somewhere, and we'll.
Yep, it'll be online, but we got you.
Okay. Well, there you have it. You heard it right from the
All right.
horse's mouth there, so to speak. So, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda. Mr. Welling with a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Otley seconding. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Glad we're doing events again, so.
Yeah,
We're back.
no kidding.
Be back.
Further discussion? If there is none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Those items are approved. Thank you to all who are organizing those events. We have no unfinished business, so now we'll go to new business, and we'll start there with ordinance 2104. Mr. Bowl, please.
Your Honor, this is an ordinance of the City of Evanston annexing the real property more particularly described as requested in the petition to annex submitted by Casey L. Hartzell and Jana L. Hartzell.
Thank you. This is relative to the public hearing we just held a few minutes ago. Is there any questions that anybody has at this point? I think we're all fairly aware of what's... You're going to be our sponsor. Mr. Sellers will be our sponsor. And I'll ask for a motion to approve ordinance 2104 on first reading.
I'll second it.
Mr. Welling and Mr. Perks. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved on first reading. Thank you. And we'll go to resolution 2138. Mr. Bowley, read that title for us, please.
Your Honor, this resolution of the city authorizes the acceptance of a proposal from Porter, Muirhead, Cornea, and Howard. It's to provide the city audit services for the year ending on June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, sir.
This is for our audit that will be coming up this summer for our year ending at the end of this month. Page 8 is where it shows most of the fees for that audit. And they give different scenarios and the requirements for those scenarios. And I did some figuring. We paid $80,000 last year. This year, we are going to have to test at least 2 major programs, maybe 3 because of the money we've received from the federal government and spent. So that's going to add up and cost us more this year. And I figured between 92 and 104 is probably the most it will be. So, yeah, it's a lot of money. We receive the money and then we have to pay for it.
It's always a two-edged sword, seems like, with,
Yeah, they're charging us $7,500 per major program they've got to test, and that's based on how much money we've spent in the year. And I know when I sent her what we've spent, it was close to $900,000. So she says probably 2, but depending on if we spend any more between now and the end of June, it might be 3 major programs they got to look at. So then what they do is they take those federal grants, those are the major programs, and make sure we've done everything we're supposed to. And
you know, and I guess the way you said that, I appreciate that, because in my mind, that is, this is a lot of money that we're spending, but it also, one of the benefits is to make sure that we are doing things appropriately. When we are audited, it would expose if there's something that we're doing that's not,
right.
you know, whatever, not exactly, it would expose that, and we could make corrections, and we could make changes, and we could do things differently and make sure that we're in compliance with
Yes.
with laws. And so it's a lot of money, but it's at the same time money
Money well spent.
well spent, or at least it feels like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce with a motion to pass.
Mr. Lynch, is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who?
Stereo Welling.
I'll just put down Mr. Welling and let Diane figure it out when she... Any discussion?
Just a comment, I think it keeps us out of trouble if something ever gets questioned. I think that's a wise thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Any further discussion? There's no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved. Thanks, Trudy. Resolution 2139. Mr. Bowie, read that title for us, please.
Your Honor, this resolution of the city authorizes the execution of an agreement with Forest Grin Associates, Inc. It's to provide engineering and construction management services for the 18th, 19th Street, and West Summit Waterline Replacement Project.
Thank you. Mr. Barker.
Good evening. So we've already, I don't think we approved the agreement. I think we did. Well, we awarded Forsgren for that, and we were originally just going to do the water replacement for 19th Street, but looking at it and direction from the mayor and council was kind of encouraged to maybe add the other street and do both of them at the same time, 19th and 18th, and then do Summit connection to those 2 streets. And so we had to make an amendment to their agreement. So this is a new contract to essentially a change order, but we were able to get the agreement modified in time to get it done and get that in their survey work before they were starting that surveying soon. So so I think it's, you know, there might be some cost savings there by doing them both at the same time, you know, just the scale of the project and getting maybe a larger contractor and getting in there and getting it done. And but yeah, so this is something that we could break out into different years or different phases, but we can also do it all together as well. And so that's kind of the plan, at least at this point, to get it designed all together and then bid it out and see where we are.
I think it's also kind of good to mention, I guess, that we recognize that we have an aging infrastructure as a community. And those along these streets that have paid into a water bill and a sewer bill and all those things for all those many years, that's where those funds come from, to facilitate these repairs and upgrades. So we're putting those funds back to work and updating some things and hopefully making things better.
Yeah, and I failed to mention that. I kind of think that it's assumed or everybody knows, but the reason why is because a lot of those mains are 4- and 6-inch size cast iron, ductile iron mains that we have issues with and are undersized for fire flow requirements. And so especially when we did our master plan study, that part of town was earmarked for these types of replacement projects with 8-inch PVC mains. So it's good for fire flow and also for aging infrastructure. So
We seem to have a lot of breaks last few years. Feels like anyway that we've had a lot of breaks.
we do,
Hopefully we'll
especially
fix-
this part of town. I'm sure everybody on those streets could probably tell you. So.
Any questions before we move on? Is there an introduction on this resolution? Mr. Welling with a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Otley with a second. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved.
Thanks.
Thank you. Dean. Resolution 2140. Mr. Bull, please.
Your Honor, this resolution of the city authorizes the application to obtain a bulletproof vest partnership grant from the U.S. Department of Justice.
Mayor, Council, this is our annual application for the bulletproof vest. The feds will pay half of a bulletproof vest up to $848, what they feel is what a bulletproof vest costs. Fortunately, right now our vests are running at about $1,000 each. But I'd rather be the Boy Scout and have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But this helps offset the costs to the city. We applied for $6,235 and change, and the feds agreed to $3,117 and change for their half.
Okay.
So it's pretty much an annual thing. We get notified that it's up for renewal, so we need to renew it.
Absolutely. Is there an introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce and I'll second it.
Mr. Lynch with a motion, Mr. Perk seconding. Any discussion?
I think we all want to keep our officers safe.
Yes, much agreed.
You mentioned the $1,000 cost. They're, I guess, priceless when it comes.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr.
Good.
The level 3s are going just over $1,100 with their ballistic plate. And they changed the standards a couple years ago. The old level 3, 3A, is now the new level 2A, and then they came out with a beefier level 3A. But it's just because ammunition's improving, they're getting faster bullets, and that's what it all boils down to, is how fast the bullet's moving, what the vest is designed to stop. Your level 2As will stop typically 1,400 feet a second, and 22s will get right through that. 22 rifles, not 22 pistols. So the level 3As are, we prefer that, we give them the choice, either 2A or 3A, it's officer's choice. And that's where we're at.
Sounds good. Any further discussion? There's no further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved as well.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you. Resolution 2141. Mr. Bull, read that title for us.
Your Honor, this resolution of the city authorizes the execution of a contract with the department, the Wyoming Department of Health. It's to continue the coronavirus surveillance through testing of the city's untreated wastewater.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Roberts?
So, good evening. As you know, we've been testing the wastewater for COVID-19, and our current contract with the state runs out at the end of June, and this is a renewal to do it through the end of the year, just to continue to monitor the coronavirus in the community, and they pay us for the testing. So.
And this, as I understand it, does not require our folks to take any greater
No.
threats or whatever you want to say. It's just something that's added on to their typical testing
Right.
operations. Is that right?
Any PPE they wear to take any of their other samples works for this same thing, and they take all of the samples at the same time. This just goes to a different lab than the rest of them. So.
Do they send us a report of what they're finding in our water?
I do, yeah. I get that. Back in the middle of December, when things were rampant, they figured about 8% of the population who used our sewer system had coronavirus. It's about 900 people if you put it to our population. So I don't know what the public health numbers were at the time, but I think that's higher than what actually tested at the hospital. Now we're down under 1%, which is awesome, but it's still out there a little bit, according to the testing.
Excellent.
So,
Is there an introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce with the motion to pass.
Mr. Sellers with a motion to pass. Is there a second?
All seconded.
Mr. Perks with a second. Any discussion? There's no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Resolution 2142. Mr. Bowie, read that title for us, please.
Your Honor, this resolution of the city authorizes the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of Evanston and the City of Evanston to facilitate the restoration of the historic Union Pacific switch engine in Section 2 of the Roundhouse.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, Council, Rocco O'Neill Community Development. This is an MOU that we've been working on with our Historic Preservation Commission here, our local Historic Preservation Commission, to have them restore the 4420, which is in Section 2. And I'll let them talk about that in more detail. But we sat down early last week, and discussed some of the items on the MOU and changed some things. We were running 120 to Section 2. We're just going to go ahead and upgrade that to 240 because it came at no additional cost. And there were a few other minor things, but basically we're going to maximize the amount of time they have to work on the engine without, creating an interruption or noise for any events that go on in our facilities. So it's just a matter of communication, and we feel like we have a solid line of communication with these folks, and we look forward to working with them and helping them out because I think this is going to be a neat project. So that's pretty much all I have on this, and I'll let them speak if they'd like to, I guess.
You have anything more to add, any gentlemen? If you had to, please, Mr. Davis.
Your Honor and Council, do want to, on behalf of the Commission, thank Rocco and his staff for working with us on this MOU. We're anxious to get going. I will tell you that we will be somewhat handicapped a little bit because as you know, Section 1 is used all the time for events, and we're not supposed to be in there when there's something going in Section 1. So we'll work with this and do the best we can, and perhaps if we need be, we can come back and maybe address the accessibility at a later date. But we're fine with the way it stands today, and we're most anxious to get going. This will be a long-term project, and we anticipate it'll be, we don't know exactly what the cost will be, but probably around $300,000. And it's going to be driven by volunteer effort. Some of our volunteers are here this evening. And we have an aggressive plan. We're confident that people will be working on the engine. The MOU requires us to give you an organization chart, which I pass it on to Rocco and make sure that you have that. But pleased to report that we have a qualified engineer that will be overseeing the work. He's worked on engines before. He's highly respected in boiler repair for steam engines. He lives in Ely, Nevada, so we'll have to work with him when he can be here to guide us through the process. For those of you which most of you were there, 2 years ago we had the preservation banquet. Marty was the guest speaker, so if you kind of remember that short gentleman that went up and gave an address, He's also a background, he was a city councilman in Ely, so he's familiar with the workings of city government. We have pleased to report we don't have a dollar amount, but we do have a donor that wants to make a substantial donation to this project, so we're anxious to get going and see what we can do to get the engine running again. Any questions?
Well, the only thing I'll say is right from the start, I always thought there's going to be some awful tall hurdles, and so far, they keep getting jumped, and they keep moving forward, so I think it's an exciting prospect to see what the possibilities are, and at every turn, in your head, you think that's going to be a big job, and it's still exactly that, but it continues to move forward, so it's kind of exciting to see.
Yeah, thank you. It is. It's an awesome undertaking, and we have a lot on our plate. We'll be back again to tell you some other projects we're working on. But I have one of our volunteers, young man, is Gavin Wagstaff, is with us tonight, and the reason I wanted to point him out is. He works for Union Tank, and Union Tank is, with Gavin's work, is anxious to give us volunteers from their company to help work on it, so we'll have people that know what's going on with engines and so forth. So,
sounds great to me.
Anybody else want to say anything? Rick? Oh, now we're in trouble.
I told my wife I'd be home by 7. I'm kidding.
Richard Askelson. I know I don't have to sell you on this, but I want to. And the reason I want you to understand, everybody here and another 20 people that didn't make it love the roundhouse, the locomotive. Most of us are retired, so we need things to do that means things. In this town, I've been here 40 years, and it's treated me great, even though I don't live in the city. And a year and a half ago, I had a passion for years. I wanted to move that water tower up here, and we're going to get it. No seconds, no replacements, no number 2. It's going to be up here. Met with the mayor and Rocco and UP, Mr. Anderson, who has called me back and we've talked.
Excellent.
And we are actually putting in a proposal to UP to get it up here. That's later. But on this locomotive, the thing I run into and I've sat and listened to, and I'm not sure where we're at on this MOU, but we're all here free of charge to make this a better area, and we're going to make it a better area. And I feel sometimes our hands are a little tied. For us, I think it was said, now do we have to have porta potties? Okay, I just had that. But I wanted to sell you guys on the next few meetings and through into the winter that we're going to get this locomotive running. And I put out on Facebook a couple months ago just to see who would want to work on this free of charge, donate their time, which is weekends when we have weddings there. And I want you to all know we will respect those people, and that comes first. There's no question that we're going to make a lot of noise and disrupt a wedding there. And I want you to know that on that Facebook, I had 184 responses, and I have a list of 14 people that I say are qualified to come in and work on a project like that. Even had some families that want to bring their kids over to work on it, but we can't. And those 14 people are oil field retirees. They're people that work on big stuff. And so when things come up, I would like you to consider that what we're doing, and I know you know what we're doing, and we're going to put millions of more dollars into that place. And we're going to have that locomotive in a few years where you run it out the door, put it on the round table, whip it around, bring it down to City Hall, and bring it back. Why? Because that area over there, to me, is the biggest tourist thing we have in this city. How many thousands of people come and see it? So I'm asking you to understand that if we come to you and say, we need this, can you get us for it? We will provide money. We have ideas on putting money into that ourselves, as we do. But things like power, and I understand we've come to agreement on the power, and things that we need that maybe the city has extra that we can put in there that would be permanent anyway. It would be done anyway, because we want to bring people in there to be able to see us working on it. I mean, who wouldn't like to see people tearing a steam engine apart? So I'm not here to do anything but sell you in the future on the idea of what we're about to do and accomplish, that we're all going to be part of in the future. So that's all I'm doing, is make sure you guys are sold on this, and that whatever we can work with you guys and that. So
Thank you.
any questions? I got through it. Thank you.
And I think what I could say for myself, I hope it's a raving success. I hope you can actually pull this off. I think that would really be cool. I'm assuming that you can appreciate that as a community, as you mentioned, we also have a lot of other activities going on at the Roundhouse that from those folks' perspective is just as important and just as valuable to the community. And so that's the kind of the reason for these kinds of agreements, is to make sure that we find hopefully some kind of a balance between the value of all those events, which is truly significant to each and every person involved. And so I think we can work together. I think we can continue to work together. And we'll just have to do what we can do and make sure that we continue to be able to use the Roundhouse for what it was intended for when it was first conceptualized many, many years ago. So that's where our focus is as well. So we agree. We agree. Any other comments?
I got one more.
Please.
I'm really glad to see you involving young people, because not a problem, John. In the 40 years that I've been in Evanston, 38, a lot's been accomplished down at the Roundhouse. I won't live long enough to see it completed. And the only way it'll ever become completed is if we involve the next generation. So, thank you.
Exactly. Is there an introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce the motion to pass. I'll second.
Mr. Otley and Mr. Welling seconding. Any discussion? Discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposed? That's approved. Thank you, gentlemen. Comments from departments. Mr. Pearson, anything to add? Ms. Lim? Mr. O'Neill? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Ehlers? Sitting back there in the corner, being quiet and all? He's been golfing, hasn't he? Yeah, a little bit. What's a little? It's a relative. Mr. Parker? Anything? Is yours? Mr. Bold, do you have anything more for us tonight?
Nothing more tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Public participation. Is there anyone here that would like to, from the public, that would like to address the council for any reason? Please, go ahead, Kane.
The tennis courts and taking pictures. The National Tennis Association chair from Park City was here working with Chris Wise, who teaches kids tennis. And they're hoping to draw more attention to the tennis courts. And I know Scott's been asking in the budget, but hope you'll all go out and look. I got pictures of how bad the tennis court is, because it could be dangerous for for kids if they trip. And the farthest one is actually unusable because there's such big holes in it. So I hope you remember the tennis court when you are looking at your budget. And go out and look at it. But he teaches classes all summer, 5 days a week. Has kids enrolled by appointment, doesn't get paid. And she was here helping them learn some different methods, different drills to help little kids. So, and there were little tiny kids, like 3 and 4 years old, out here playing the game with them. So
Oh, really?
It was great.
Well,
Just a plug for the town.
There is a plan with the Parks and Rec District to work on that, but very expensive.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I remember.
thank you.
It's a lifetime sport.
Okay. Anything else? If there's not, I guess we'll adjourn.
Okay. Here, Diane.